don't matter what your name is, share your story. We'll be waiting for the haters, whoa.
All right. Ready?
I'm ready.
All right.
Okay.
Welcome back, everyone, to For The Hayters podcast. Today's guest, Kim, brings us a story that so many people will relate to, but few openly talk about. Kim shares her journey through 2 miscarriages and the unique layers of grief that come with each. But her story just doesn't stop there. She speaks candidly about how these experiences impacted her relationship with her husband and how navigating grief as a couple can be isolating, confusing, and at times deeply transformative. Kim's experience shines a light on what it means to advocate for your emotional and physical well-being, how partners grieve differently, and how even in the face of heartbreak, hope and healing are possible. Let's get into it. Kim,
Yes.
Welcome to For The Hayters podcast, and thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. This is literally a dream, so I'm just honored to be here.
I love it. Can you start off by just telling us a little bit about what your life was like even before marriage? What was life like for you?
Okay. So first, I'm 35. I live 45 minutes outside of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, so I'm not far from Philly. I've always lived in this area my entire life. Me and my husband met when I was 23, so we've been together for 12 years, and we've been married for 6. So, I mean, he's pretty much all I know for the past 12 years, so, I mean, it's been a wild ride. Facebook, actually.
Wow.
So I know. We had, like, mutual friends, and I remember, like, messaging him and being like, "You look familiar. Do I know you?" And then we met at he came to pick me up from my house. And then we went and we walked around a park, and we've been together ever since. So that's kind of like
together for 12, married for 6, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So like 2013, we started dating, and then we got married in 2019 in July. So July 21st of 2019 was our wedding.
Was a family something that the two of you always wanted to build?
I will say that when I first met him, he was very skeptical about wanting to be married and have kids. And then he told me that I changed all of that for him. When we, moved out. We dated for about a year, and then we moved to our apartment. And then he worked night shift. So that was hard for a little while because he worked nights and I worked days for a good year. And then I was like, you really need to get on day shift, because it was literally like we were having a long distance relationship for that entire year. We move in together and I'm like, where's my partner? Like, we don't really see each other. We spent a lot of time on the weekends together, but then he got his shift changed and we lived in our apartment for 2 years. And then in 2017, we bought our house. He actually asked me, do you want to get engaged first or do you want to buy a house first? And I said, I want the house first. And then so
Illogical of you.
Yeah. So we bought the house. Perfect timing to buy the house. And then he proposed to me in the house with my parents, his grandparents, like everyone was around. We have it recorded. We got engaged, and then we got married at the William Penn Inn. I don't know if you know what that is, but
I do.
We got married there. It was the hottest day of the entire year. It was supposed to be outside. We had to move it indoors. I was very disappointed, but it was the hottest day in July. So,
wow.
Yeah.
And so how long after marriage did you guys start trying?
2022, we started to try up until, so here's the start of it. So 2022, we started trying. It was November 6th of 2023. We booked an appointment with the Shady Grove Fertility Clinic because we were not getting pregnant. It was almost a year. And I'm like, okay, something's up. Let's go that route and see like what's going on, because at that point, it's almost been a year. It's been 9 months. And I'm like, let's get the ball rolling here. And I've heard a lot of stories about Shady Grove fertility and going through a fertility clinic. And so we had our first appointment literally online, like a Zoom meeting the doctor. And then we scheduled an appointment to actually go there. And that's when I found out that I was pregnant on November 18th of 2023.
Wow.
It was crazy. I could not believe it. It's crazy because just 2 days ago, it was the 18th. And I'm like, wow, I just found out I was pregnant 2 years ago for the first time.
Yeah.
So we found out on the 18th and I was like, oh my gosh, we don't need to go through a fertility clinic. Holy crap, I'm pregnant. I was probably pregnant the time that we had our conversation with the doctor and I didn't even know. So that was wild. So that's how that started. And then finding out I was pregnant, I believe I was late, a couple days late. I'm usually very on time with my period. So I took a pregnancy test early in the morning to get like the first T, because that's when they say to do it. And sure enough, it was positive and it said pregnant, and I like recorded myself in the bathroom. I'm like, all right, if it's pregnant, like I've done this so many times, but who knows? And then it was, in fact, there. I was shaking. I remember my bathroom's connected to my master bedroom and Ian's sleeping. And I just open up the door. I'm like, babe, I'm pregnant. And he's like, I told you, I knew it. I knew you were pregnant. Like we just had, I don't know why we had that feeling, because I was late.
Yeah.
So surreal.
Yeah.
It was, the first time ever being pregnant. I was just like, oh my gosh. And it was the weekend. So I had to wait until Monday to call my OB to tell them that I was pregnant. So I called my mom. I did not wait. I was just so excited to tell my parents. We ended up waiting to tell Ian's mom. And I called my best friends, like my girlfriends. But other than that, I called my OB and they told me, okay, so we're going to schedule you out for your first ultrasound to be on December 14th. And I was like, okay. They told me I have to go to this specific location to get my first ultrasound done because they have ultrasound machines there. And I'm going to hear the heartbeat at my appointment. And I'm like, great, cool. I had more, I didn't throw up at all during my being pregnant at this point. Definitely had nausea and whatnot, but I was not throwing up, which is great. And so I was very excited. I was like, all right, I had my husband take off work for the first appointment. I took tons of videos and pictures, and I was just like, I cannot believe that this appointment is time for me to go and see my little bean. So I went to the appointment and I was extremely disappointed. I found out that I was not getting an ultrasound. I was not going to listen to the heartbeat. I was told false information. I was told that I was going to see my baby, and this clinic was like, no, we don't have ultrasound machines here. You need to get a referral to go and get your ultrasound done. I said, well, why was I told that I was going to come here and get this done? Oh, this is just your original appointment, like your intake appointment to give you information about what you can eat and what you can't eat and what supplements you're on. And it was extremely I cried. I sobbed.
Feels like a lot.
Yeah. Like I remember after that appointment, I called the original place and I complained. And I was like, I'm a first-time pregnant person. I do not know any better. I was told I was going to be able to see my baby today. Or, at that appointment, can you please explain to me what happened? And they told me, oh, yeah, she's new at the front desk. She didn't know any better. Okay, well, you should probably train your staff to make sure that they know these things and not getting a first-time mom's hopes up for seeing their baby or hearing the heartbeat. Because at that point, I was very excited.
Yeah.
So that was like red flag number 1 for me.
And how far along would you have been at that appointment?
8 weeks.
Yeah, so your 8-week appointment.
Mm-hmm. So
Okay.
it would have been 8 weeks that they told me that I would be able to listen for a heartbeat and, get my ultrasound done pretty much.
Yeah. So how soon after that were you able to reschedule another appointment?
So I was able to get my appointment at a, like, I don't want to say it was an urgent care because it's not, but like where you get ultrasounds done, I had a referral. It wasn't an OB office. It was like a place where anybody can go get ultrasounds and MRIs and stuff done. I got that done on December 23rd of 2023. So it was December 23rd. I was so excited. My husband and I were like, this is it. We're ready. We go. And they tell you to drink a lot of water to get your ultrasound done. I suck at drinking water. I will be very honest about that. And I did not drink enough water. So they had to do a vaginal ultrasound instead of just like a top belly ultrasound. And she's going and she's looking around and she's taking a while. And like, it's just an ultrasound tech. And she's like, I'm really sorry, but your baby doesn't have a heartbeat. And I was like, are you sure? Like, are you sure? And she's like, yeah, I'm sure. I'm not supposed to tell you this, but like your baby stopped growing at 7 weeks and 2 days. And that's when your whole world crashes down and you lose, like, it's like the air of my lungs just completely were taken out. And I just remember my husband sitting there and she looked at me and she's like, I'm really not supposed to tell you this, but because it's Christmas, I didn't want you to go into the holidays thinking that everything was all right when it wasn't, because my plan was to tell my family at that point that I was, pregnant and I was going to have a baby. And so she asked me at that appointment, do you want a picture of baby? And I was like, no, I don't want a picture. I was so angry. I was like, how could you ask me that? No, I don't want a picture. And I was so devastated at that point that I was just like so taken back that, yeah, I'm sure people maybe would be like, yeah, of course I want to see, my baby. But at that point I was like, what's the point? I was just so devastated and sobbing. And my husband was just like, we were shocked. I personally wish that I knew that a miscarriage was a thing because I was never taught that. Throughout my pregnancy, I would check every time I peed to see if there was any blood. There wasn't. I checked. I felt pregnant. I felt normal. I felt like everything was going well. I had no idea that I would get the news that my baby no longer was living. And that was just absolutely gut-wrenching and devastating. And that was even harder because the next day was Christmas Eve. And so I'm like, great. My husband was very great at supporting me. He bought me flowers. My family was very supportive. But now they were like, your doctor's going to call you and talk to you about this. And she's like, again, I wasn't supposed to tell you. Well, okay. So I go home. The doctor calls me. I really have to give you some I already know. I already know that my baby is, stopped growing at 7 weeks and 2 days. I know that there was no heartbeat. She's like, oh, okay. So you have a choice to make. Do you want to get a D&C? Do you want to wait naturally? Do you want to take the meds? Well, at that point, I was like, I'm very holistic usually. And so I was like, well, I think I'm going to wait and see if my body does something naturally, because it was the holidays. And I'm like, I just rather just wait to see what's going to happen. It was so hard waiting, going through the holidays, because I didn't know if I was going to start to randomly bleed. I didn't know. So it was just so hard. And on top of that, unfortunately, my father-in-law passed away on New Year's Eve in 2021. So on top of the grief that I'm experiencing now, years goes by. I'm not only processing my own grief, but I'm processing, again, the loss of my father-in-law who passed away in 2021. And I haven't miscarried at this point. So I made it to New Year's and I'm like, all right. So I kept thinking, I have a dead baby inside of me. I'm carrying a dead baby inside of me. And that's all that kept replaying in my head over and over again. And the anticipation of waiting for this was just too much for me. So I told my husband, I need to make an appointment and get meds. And I decided I want to be in my own home. I want to choose to be in my own space. And my sister-in-law, unfortunately, had a miscarriage a year before I did. I am so thankful not thankful that she had the miscarriage, but I'm just so thankful that she was able to help me during this experience, because me choosing the medication route was the hardest thing that I've ever experienced in my entire life. And the most painful thing that I have experienced in my entire life. And when I went to that appointment, that was on January 3rd. I went to my appointment at the OB. The doctor was not empathetic. She was not compassionate. She just made it sound like, okay, you're here. Let's get the job done. I've never experienced this personally. I've done this countless times for women. She told me that it was going to be like a heavy period. She told me that I'll have cramping, I will pass some clots, and that it'll be like a heavy period. And I advocated for myself at that appointment because my neighbor who lives across from me had 5 miscarriages in a row. Went through IVF, and now she has a beautiful baby boy, and I'm very happy for her. But she went through 5 miscarriages and warned me that you miscarrying is not going to feel like a heavy period, so please ask for pain meds. So I asked the doctor if I could get anti-nausea meds and pain meds. And so she's like, I don't normally prescribe pain medication. I will prescribe you Tylenol 3, which is Tylenol plus codeine. It's like a mix of both to help you get through it. Well, I go to CVS. Sorry, we're out of Tylenol 3. We can't fill it. It's sold out or whatever. Like, it's out of stock. I'm like, what am I supposed to freaking do now? Like, and so this probably should not have been done, but my neighbor gave me an extra Tylenol 3 that she had from her past miscarriages and said, here you go. She ran it over to my house. She knew what I was going through and said, please take this if you need it. Well, the doctor told me that I would probably start to miscarry a couple hours after I got home. So my appointment was at 3:30. Got home, got prepared, but what I prepared for was not what actually took place. So I remember my cramping started around 7. I was on my hands and knees on my bed, sobbing and screaming like I was giving birth. The contractions that you feel, and this is not to scare anybody, also if you choose the medication route, but this is very much my experience of you are having contractions like you are pregnant, like you are giving birth. When they tell you that it is like a heavy period that far along, they are lying. That is not what actually happens. It was the most excruciating pain of my life. I told Ian I was screaming for him to come upstairs. I just wanted him to hold my hand and rub my back. But then when he started to rub my back, I'm like, don't touch me. Like when you're pregnant, you think that that's what you want in the time. It wasn't helping me. I was not getting any comfort. I finally had to take the medication. I even took Advil. I took Advil on top of the Tylenol 3. And then at some point, I got really nauseous because of how bad the contractions were, that eventually I had to take a Zofran. And then I had to make it to the bathroom. So I literally sat on the toilet. I called my sister-in-law. While I was miscarrying, I was on the phone with my sister-in-law, sobbing, and she was walking me through it because she's been through it herself. And she's like, Kim, you're almost there. Like, you got this. Like, she was coaching me through the phone. Ian's in the bedroom. He's outside the door. And it was, again, the most excruciating pain. And this is going to be TMI, and I'm sorry, but like, I think something that I will never get over and get past is when you actually pass and hear it plop in the toilet. That is when my heart sank and dropped, because I knew that was them. That was my baby that I am physically losing, that I just didn't expect to feel after passing that, and like passing them. And like, to me, my gut feeling felt like I was having a girl. I don't know. That was my like gut. And so I just will never be able to get over the sound of that, and just being like, wow. And knowing that you have to flush the toilet, and that being done, and so like, that was the hardest moment, because nobody prepares you. Some people say, oh, it's a group of cells that you are just letting go of, but like, that wasn't what it was for me. It was my baby, and I cherished, and I've always wanted to be a mom ever since I was a little girl. Like, people say, what's your purpose in life? And I've always said, like, I just want to be a mom. That's all I want. And so after that, I bled for a very, like, I want to say like a week or two. I had to wear diapers, the whole nine, after you're pregnant, and constantly, with that. I never got my HCG checked. I never had any of those things checked with my first pregnancy, because it was just, you find out you're pregnant, you have your appointment, and then I found out that I lost it, and I didn't know the reason behind it. It was very hard. I had a lot of issues with my body failed me. What did I do? I instantly got into therapy for my grief process of that. But for the first miscarriage, I will say that what was hard after that it's even worse, unfortunately. So my first ultrasound, I had to get an ultrasound after I miscarried to confirm that I lost everything. Like, I passed everything.
Mm-hmm.
That was on January the 12th. I go back to the same place that I had my original ultrasound done at, and I get greeted with, oh my gosh, congratulations.
Yeah.
I'm not pregnant anymore. You have one fucking job. One job. Like, read your paper that I'm here to make sure that I passed everything. I'm not here because I'm pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
That was so hard. And my husband didn't come with me for that, but he said, you're lucky that I was not there, or I would have rioted if I was there with you and saw somebody do that. And I understand everyone has a job to do and people make mistakes, and I'm not a confrontational person. So I was like, no, actually, I'm not here. I'm actually here to make sure that I passed everything. And she's like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Like, I missed that on your notes. Like, I totally thought you were here for another ultrasound because you were pregnant. And I was like, no. So that happened. And then, I got my ultrasound done. I passed everything. And then I asked them, hey, the last time I was here, you guys asked me if I wanted a picture of my baby. Well, I'm at a place where I'm going to regret this if I don't ask. So I asked if they still had an ultrasound picture of my baby, and they did. And they were able to take my phone and take a picture of the ultrasound picture of my baby. And what I didn't realize is that when I saw that ultrasound picture, you could see its nose, you could see little hands, you could see little feet. At 7 weeks, I thought it was just going to be a blob, right? Like, sometimes you see ultrasound pictures and like the baby is like not very formed or whatever. Mm-hmm. But the way that it was, like, no, you couldn't see eyes or any of that stuff because it's way too early. But you could see the shape of my baby and see its little nose where it would be, and like the way it was. And that made, like, as much as that made it even harder to know that that's what I passed, it made me connect even more, knowing that I will have that picture for the rest of my life, to know that, yes, this is something that I have with me forever. And I had that. But I just want to point out there, OBs need to do a better job at being empathetic and compassionate, and, not just making you feel like you're another number, like you are a human being. And also when you're going to a place that they know where you're coming in for, and they're not messing up like that, because that does damage to somebody, especially when they're already in a vulnerable and really hard spot to be in. For you to just congratulate someone for being pregnant when they're not and they just had a miscarriage is not okay.
I'm curious, and this is a weird question, but I'm curious about the other photos and other videos that you took, right? So the video that you took, like finding out you were pregnant, the photos you took, like leading up to everything, do you keep those, or do you I need to go back, like this reminded me, I need to go back and delete like everything, because like I don't want that to like pop up in the next couple of years. That's like my personal self, right?
I have them all in my phone. I have not deleted any of them. I personally like to keep them because it's a reminder that they existed.
Yeah.
And that they were very much loved during that time. I do not go back and watch any of my videos because that is very, very, very hard.
Yeah.
But I will say that, like in memory or of me posting on social media, I posted after my first miscarriage loss. I posted on social media about it, and I posted pictures of me in my belly, and I posted pictures of the pregnancy test, and obviously the picture of my baby I will never post anywhere because that is very, very personal, and that's just for me and my husband and, close family. But it doesn't hurt to see past pictures, and everyone's different, right? Like you want to go and delete it, and that's okay. Like, as you know what I mean? But I will say that another thing, which I can go into more about like my healing or, through that after my first miscarriage. There are certain things that help certain people. So for me, I entered, and it did not help, but I entered a Facebook group of miscarriage loss. And I wish that I had someone to tell me, do not enter a miscarriage loss support group on Facebook, because there are women without any trigger warning posting their miscarriage pictures of, is this a miscarriage? Oh, here's a picture of my loss.
Yeah.
In the toilet or on a piece of paper or whatever. And I'm like, oh my God, I can't do this. Like, it was very triggering for me to see other people post pictures and talk about their losses without any trigger warning. Things. I had to leave. I was like, this is not good for my mental health. So I will say that, to each his own, but I'm just letting you know that you need to be very cautious about those types of groups.
Mm-hmm. And I agree. I've talked about this before. I not that it's relative to this, but like I joined a Facebook group for the illness my dad had, and it was just really hard to be in because it was like people posting who were further along than us and like an insight into what and like I didn't want to have to read all that stuff. So
yeah,
but there's good things that come from those kinds of groups as well too. So
correct.
But I can completely understand like how traumatizing that would be. Do you feel like you had time to heal before you got pregnant again?
I do feel like I had some time to heal because I went to therapy, right? And I started to see a therapist. And I will say that I really wanted to push through my grief so badly. I didn't want to feel. I was like, can I get to the other side now? Can I get to the other side now? And my therapist would be like, Kim, I know you don't want to sit with your feelings. I know you don't want to feel, but you can't just pretend through it. Like, you have to feel through it. and she'd push me and it would be uncomfortable and I'd get angry and I'd get upset. But I never was able, even to this day, get angry about my miscarriage losses. Like, I've been sad. Anger is not an emotion that is familiar with me on how to move through. And I'm in the process right now to kind of learn how to move through anger, because anger has always been an emotion for me that I've always seen as bad, right? But no emotion is bad. But growing up, I learned somehow, some way, that being angry is not a good thing.
Yeah.
You'd get punished if you got mad and hit things and was out of control. So for me, I need to still to this day find a way to process because I'm angry about them, but I get angry through crying. When I'm angry, I cry. I'm very upset. I'm sad. But I do feel like I was able to process. I will share. I don't know if the screen's going to show, but I ended up getting a tattoo for my first loss. My baby would have been born July 23rd of 2024, which would have been 2 days after me and my husband's wedding anniversary. And so I don't know if you're going to be able to see this, but I ended up getting a tattoo of me and my baby, me holding my angel baby and having blue and, pink, because I didn't know if it was a boy or a girl. But that's my tribute for, my little angel baby that and that was very therapeutic for me to get that in memory of when they would have been, when they would have been born. So I feel like, yes, I was able to heal some, but I didn't want to not try again. I was like, all right, we got to a place of being like, all right, let's try again. But before I tried again, I changed providers because I said, screw that. I'm not going back to that same provider. And I actually called and complained about the doctor that I had and how I didn't have the most empathetic care, and just wanted them to know. And then I just got a letter in the mail literally a week ago telling me that she has retired. She's retiring. So she is no longer an OB anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is where it gets a little crazy. So I'll get into the grief and stuff with my husband at some point. But to compare, this is where I'm religious. I believe in God. So I thought that this is just a crazy coincidence. So I went to my OB and had an appointment with her. I think it was sometime in November of 2024. Okay, so that was, I had my miscarriage 2023, January 2023. Is that right? No. January of 2024 I had.
Yeah, because you got pregnant in 2023.
Yes. So I had my miscarriage on January 3rd of 2024. Okay. So went and saw the new OB from a different hospital group and had a great experience with her. She was great. And I went and saw her 11/21 of 2024. So she ordered me labs. She's like, all right, so you had a miscarriage. Let's order some labs. She ordered me thyroid labs. She checked my thyroid. Wanted to check my progesterone, wanted to check my estrogen and my testosterone and like all those things to make sure I was good. So she also gave me advice to say, hey, if you want to get pregnant, make sure you are trying every other day during your ovulation cycle. I am very in tune with my body. Thankfully, I know when I'm ovulating because I get the worst ovulation pain when I ovulate. So I told my husband every other day we're doing it. That's just how it's going down. He's like, cool, whatever. So I ovulated. It was around December, and I received my progesterone results back on December 26th. To find out, cool, it was at 11.1. This is important. So my progesterone was 11.1. Ovulation phase that you should be in is between 0.1 and 12. And first trimester is 11.0 and 44.3. Anywhere in that range is like first trimester. So she messages me back and goes, you're great. Your progesterone's where it's at. All my other hormone levels were great and where they needed to be. I found out I was pregnant on January 3rd of 2025. Same day that I had my miscarriage in 2024.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, holy shit. This is so wild. I said, maybe this is it. I said, maybe me losing a baby is bringing me a baby. So I'm like, oh my gosh, like, what is God trying to tell me here? Like, okay, this is it. Like, this is my miracle baby. This is it. Like, I am pregnant. I was so excited. I let my new OB know on January 6th. And I said, can you please do a routine lab for my progesterone again to check it, because I wanted to make sure it was good, and to check my HCG. So I ended up doing my lab. I don't remember. Oh, it was 1.9. My progesterone dropped 6.1. Not good. She told me, and like my HCG was 37, which is fine. But she's like, we need to put you on progesterone suppositories ASAP, because the fact that your progesterone dropped this much may mean that this may already not be a viable pregnancy.
Mm-hmm.
At this point, I was scared because I'm like, okay.
Did you tell anyone this time around? Like, or did you kind of just keep this to yourself?
I did tell my mom. I did tell my stepdad, and I told my mother-in-law and sister-in-law. But that's about it. And then the first pregnancy, what I wanted to share, which I forgot to, is that I ended up getting a shirt that said like a gender review, like I'm pregnant or whatever. Like, no matter who you are, like, I love you. And we ended up telling Ian's mom, my husband's mom, that way, which was really fun. And she was excited. But yeah, I told them because I realized that when I went through my first loss, I had a lot of support. And if it would happen again, I wanted that support again.
Mm-hmm.
So I told them. They were praying for me. They were supporting me through it, checking up on me, asking me how I'm doing, anything like that. So when I was on, I ended up getting, progesterone suppositories. Also, something that's crazy about that is that there's food dye in those suppositories that you're putting up there. And that is insane to me. Like, why are there food dyes in something like that? Sorry, but that's just like something that's like, why? Like, why? So anyway, that was weird to me to find that out. Whatever. I ended up taking that, and then it was 113. They checked my progesterone again, and it went up to 10.3, which was still not great. It did go up, but not as high as it should be, because it was originally at 11.1.
Mm-hmm.
And then my HCG went up. It went up to 55, and then it went up to 85. And it wasn't really doubling. So they're like, Kim, this isn't looking very good at this point. So they're like, what we want to do is we want to do one more HCG test to see if it doubles. And then if it doesn't, then we know that this isn't a viable pregnancy and that you're going to end up miscarrying. So I was praying and praying and praying. I'm like, oh my gosh, please just. And it was like the weekend. So it was like a 3-day thing. So it was like Friday, and then I would find out on Monday, like, or it was something like that. Like, I had my last HCG tested on a Friday, and then it was Monday when I got it checked. And then I found out that it only went up to 90. And I was like, damn. And so at that point, we knew that it wasn't a viable pregnancy. I was probably about 5 weeks at that point.
At 5 weeks, you have to go through those same decisions of.
So she said, stop taking your progesterone, because your progesterone is going to keep you from miscarrying. So I had to stop that. She said, in a couple days, you will most likely start miscarrying on your own. I asked for the same thing. Can you please give me Tylenol 3? Can you please give me anti-nausea meds? They said yes. And I didn't even have to use Tylenol 3 for this loss, because I didn't pass any clots. I did end up miscarrying on January 20th, I believe it was. So like, I found out, I think on like the 15th or something, that like it was no longer. By that Friday, I had stopped bleeding. So it was like that Wednesday I miscarried. By that Friday, I wasn't bleeding anymore. And it was like a heavy period at that point. Like it was so early on. I didn't connect to that pregnancy like I did the first time around. I was so scared, but also it's completely different because I was finding things out as soon as I got pregnant. I was going and looking at my HCG. I was getting my progesterone checked. I did not get any of that checked with my first loss, right? So I just couldn't get myself to connect emotionally to my second pregnancy like I did my first because I was so terrified.
Yeah, I think, I mean, I would assume that that's pretty common, right? Like there's so much that you're afraid of happening again, and you just don't want to go through all those emotional feelings that you felt. So you're like just protecting yourself and setting up that boundary for yourself.
Yeah. And it was just like, it was really hard.
Yeah. You shared that your grief looked really different than what your husband's looked like. Can you speak a little bit about that and how it affected your relationship?
So the first time around, I wanted to talk about it a lot. My husband completely shut down. He did not want to talk about it. I viewed myself as a mom still, and he kind of didn't see it that way because we didn't have a living child. And like, I still felt like a mom, even though I don't have baby's earth side. And that was a little challenging because he didn't see the view of it like that, like I did. I needed to understand, and this therapy helped me with this, is that as badly as you want your partner to grieve the same way you are grieving, you cannot force somebody to grieve the same way you are. He was sad and he was upset and he cried. And I was a wreck, and he tried to be there because he wanted to fix it. Men, partners that you have that aren't going through something, they want to fix it. And they just can't. And so I really had to lean on my parents, and they were really big support people that when like my husband was checked out and couldn't really talk about it, I had to go to my parents about it and talk to them and talk to my therapist and talk about people who could talk about it. And I also had to understand you can't push people. Like when they're ready, they're ready. So I will say what's very flipped is my husband had a harder time with our second loss than he did with our first. And I had a harder time with my first loss than our second. And so that was very eye-opening to me because I just didn't expect that. And for me, I'm more of like because I went through it emotionally. I got ornaments for the tree for our, children that we've lost, and I've gotten a tattoo, and I'm doing things to remember them. And my husband is kind of not that way. He talks about it. He wishes that we would have 3 kids by now. And I just needed to understand that we all don't grieve the same way. That like, it's okay if I want to talk about it, but it's okay if they don't.
Is that how you start to create that space for both of your kind of grief to coexist?
Correct. Yeah.
Do you find him struggling with that same thing of trying to find a balance for both of you to be able to grieve kind of separately?
I think so. I think that for him, he was ready the second time to be a dad. And the first time around, I think that he was scared to be a dad. And I think that the second time around, he was ready. He was like, yes. He was just more, I don't know, other than saying that he was ready for it.
Yeah.
He was.
Do you think that how do you think that both of these experiences have changed your guys' relationship?
I think that we have learned how to kind of be there for each other in our own ways when it comes to grief. This was the same way when his dad passed. This is not new for us to have to figure out how to cope with grieving and what that looks like. He is more reserved. He is an avoidant. I am the one that wants to talk about everything and all things. And so that can be difficult. But also, he now has the space to come to me. Like, I'm open when he wants to talk about it. He will open up and he will come to me and he will share his feelings and thoughts and say, hey, I'm having a hard time, or hey, this has been on my mind, or, but I'm more so the one that remembers the little things of the anniversaries and what this day is like. And it's just different because he wasn't he wasn't pregnant. So like it's just a different grief.
Yeah.
He doesn't know what it was like to carry a little baby inside of you, and he'll never understand that. And that's where he just wanted me to feel better. The grieving process for my second loss was nowhere compared to my first. Like, I'm like, why am I not as sad? Like, I'm sad, but I'm not devastated like I was the first time around. And it was almost like I almost felt shame about that, right? Like, I did share about my second loss. I thought about whether or not I was going to on social media because it wasn't the same pain that I experienced the first time around. And I didn't know how fair that was for me to share that because I'm experiencing and getting people being like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry that this is your second loss. And it's like, I appreciate that. And I will just say that I feel like this is definitely have me and my husband learn more about each other and how we handle things and what we need to do to give to each other to be able to process our own grief and timeline with everything.
I think you sharing that you grieve differently this time probably validated a lot of people's feelings. I don't think it's something to be ashamed of for sure, just because like everyone is going to handle situations differently, and like allowing yourself to feel difference, like there's strength in that, right? Like,
yeah,
some people would be too hard on themselves to even be able to acknowledge that because of the shame and guilt that they feel. So I think that it was important, and I think you probably helped a lot of people who might feel those differences, experiencing the grief themselves.
Yeah, I never want anyone to feel like, again, I felt shame about it, but it's not a shameful thing. Like, whatever you feel is valid. You have two different experiences of what happened. It was very, very different for me. And also I got answers through my second loss, right? Like, I found out that I need to be on progesterone when I try again at some point. When I'm ready to try again, I know that I'm going to have to be on progesterone suppositories before I even start trying to hold that and make sure that my uterine lining is thick enough to hold a pregnancy. And also, I know I didn't talk about this, but, she asked me if I wanted to get some sort of some sort of thing where they put liquid through your tubes to see if any of your tubes are blocked.
To HCG.
You know exactly what that is.
Yeah, it's
I did not say I was going to go and do that. I was like, I am okay. Like, listen, it's not that I can't get pregnant. It's I can't stay pregnant at this moment. So like, I am not going to put myself through that because I heard it's very painful.
I can very much so validate that it is very painful. So everyone takes it differently. I took it well comparatively so to those that I know got it. Like the friends of mine that have got it said it like sent them into like a psychosis. Like they were hysterically crying. It worked for like a solid 5 seconds, but like that 5 seconds was like, holy shit. Like, what is going on? Yeah.
So I was like, no, I'm not there at that point to do that. And so
it's your point, you can get pregnant. And so like that testing is to validate the ability to, like, so
I don't know why she wanted me to get, I don't know. She offered it to me. I was like, okay.
Sometimes clears out things too. So there's like a couple of different things, but I always said it. And I've had multiple conversations with people about just fertility in general. Obviously I know quite a bit about it. I don't understand why progesterone isn't something that's offered like in pregnancy in general, because how much it helps support like creating a space for a successful pregnancy.
I agree. And also, so after that, I found out she also wanted to test me for a blood clotting disorder. And I was like, okay, cool. Well, my number was so high that I was shocked. And I got this test shortly after my second miscarriage. So when they tested me for antiphospholipid syndrome, which is a blood clotting disorder, she's like, okay, your number is very high. It was like 30 something. And it should be between 0 and 12, I believe. So she's like, you have to test it in 12 weeks. You have to test it again to see if you have antiphospholipid syndrome. So I'm like, well, what does this mean if I do end up having this? And she's like, you're going to have to get Lovenox, which is a shot every single day that you have to inject. And I'm like, you were?
I was, yeah.
Oh my gosh, I did not know that.
Yeah, with IVF, because it was my second, I had a failed transfer. They want it. It's a blood thinner. It's to help. And I still have bruising on my stomach from the Lovenox shot. The Lovenox shots were the worst of like all the medicine. I was like, yeah.
I was freaking out about this because I was like, oh my God, what if I have this? I was spiraling.
It's not that the world, right? Like, it's not like having blood thinners is very common for people going through like fertility on the opposite side of like IVF and IUI and all the things over there. So like, and it is what it is. It was just accumulation of everything. It was really frustrating. If I had to do it again, I would. It wasn't like an HCG made me like question everything. But yeah, like blood thinners are very common for like fertility or afterwards. Yeah.
I had no idea. So the 12 weeks came, found out that it got lower, but it wasn't in the normal range. So I'm like, what does this mean? She's like, oh, it just may mean that you have an autoimmune disease. It may not mean that you have a blood clotting disorder. We can't determine that you have antiphospholipid syndrome, which means that like you're not going to get diagnosed with that, which means you don't need to be on Lovenox. But we do recommend you being on a baby aspirin when you get pregnant next. So I'm like, okay, good to know, because they said my levels are not where it needs to be. They don't know why. I'm like, okay, that doesn't help me, but okay. So the next time I get pregnant, I know that I need to be on a baby aspirin. I need to start a baby aspirin, and I know that I need to be on progesterone. I am not there yet. I am not ready to try yet. And I will be honest with you, this is a whole nother conversation I could get into, but I will not. But I was on Lexapro for 11 years. Got off of it for the first time. Only made it 7 months because of the withdrawal. People don't talk about withdrawal and getting off of an SSRI. It is extremely, extremely hard. So this past 7 months, past year, I'm now only 2 weeks into my 5 milligram getting back onto Lexapro. But I really wanted to be medication free the next time I tried to get pregnant. I was like, I don't want to be on an antidepressant. I don't want it, but my anxiety is so bad. I thought I was going to be able to do life without being on an antidepressant and not be on an anxiety medication. It turns out that's not my story. And I do have to be on Lexapro. And you know what? That's okay. But right now, I am trying to get me straight from being off of a anxiety medication that gave me severe withdrawal the past 7 months, that it was the most difficult past year that I've been through trying to just survive every day. So once I am on my Lexapro and I'm stabilized mentally, my mental health is better, I will be okay with preparing to try again. With my husband.
It seems like the doctor you have knows what they're doing now. Like, like even just like the things that they're testing for and trying, they have definitely insight into like fertility care in general, which I don't know if all OB, like OB or whatever they are, had. So that's a good thing, right? Like that those tests and those things that you're doing are typically what like a fertility clinic would be doing.
Exactly. And so we actually, Ian and I, we actually reached out to Shady Grove Fertility. And I don't know how recent after, but Ian went and got his sperm checked to make sure they were good, because like, I'm doing all these tests. You need to go get this checked. And they were like, yeah, he has super sperm. And I'm like, he's all came home so excited because he got his results back saying, I got super sperm. And I'm like, great. That's great. I know it's not you. That's wonderful. And I was very happy to know that that's not another thing to add into it. But yes, I do know that I need to, hopefully, when I do my progesterone and I do my, baby aspirin, that's the next step to having a successful pregnancy. But I don't know what's going to happen if I do have another miscarriage when I am doing those things. I don't know.
Unfortunately, I don't think there's any answers to just about anything. It's one day at a time. What kind of message would you want to give to someone who might be going through a miscarriage, who feels completely alone?
Well, first, you're not alone. And I will say that this is more common than I could have ever imagined or known because of how many people I have even reached out to. They're like, oh, me too. It's like the Me Too movement, unfortunately. I never wanted to be a part of this, group of people who have experienced this such loss, but you are not alone. Please reach out. There are so many people out there that would, help and support you. I am one of those people. If you are going through a loss, I am an open book and I will talk to you, and I will say that a grieving journal has helped me. A friend of mine actually sent me a grieving journal, a miscarriage journal, through Amazon as like a gift, like a friendly thing. I will say that any feelings that you are going through are valid, and that you don't have to do it alone, and that if you need help, if your mental health is struggling, please go and get therapy, because I will say that therapy has truly helped me through my grieving process to have a safe place to go to and talk about things. And I just don't want this to be such a taboo topic. I feel like this needs to be talked about so much more than it is. I understand it's a very vulnerable thing to share, and I understand that not a lot of people feel comfortable. And also a lot of people don't know what to say. So another advice is please be very mindful and careful who you do decide to talk to about this, because I personally have also been subject to people saying things that actually did not help me and actually hurt me more than it did help. And I think that for people also on the other side of things who are talking to you about a miscarriage and loss, please do not say things like, oh, it must have been a lot easier for you to lose your baby without hearing a heartbeat. Or, just be thankful that it didn't happen later. None of that is great to hear, whether you miscarry and it's a chemical pregnancy, whether you lost it right after you found out you were pregnant. It does not matter. It doesn't take away the loss, and it doesn't take away anything. So I would refrain from doing that. And I would just say, please just love on them and support them, and, just be an open door. And you don't need to give advice. You can even ask them, or, do you want to just vent, or do you want me to respond? Because I feel like a lot of people lack asking that when people do open up about stories and situations.
I think that was great advice. If people wanted to reach out to you, where would they find you?
I believe my Instagram is, let me see, because I don't know, my Gordon Girl 21 is my Instagram handle, and you can find me Kim Gordon. That's where you can find me on Instagram. If you want to reach out, please do. I'm here for you. You don't have to go through it alone.
And my last question to you, if you could tell your younger self anything, what would it be?
You are stronger than you think and believe, and you are brave, and that you will get through anything because you have all the love and support, and you did nothing wrong, and that you are amazing just the way you are.
I love it. Well, Kim, thank you so much for your raw honesty, your strength, and your heart. You've given a voice to something that is so often silenced. Your willingness to speak on grief, relationships, and resilience offers powerful comfort to so many. To those listening, no one experiences grief the same way. Whether you've had a miscarriage, love someone who has, or are supporting a partner through it, know that your feelings are valid and that you're not alone. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time on For The Hayters.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to For The Hayters. Don't forget to connect with us on socials, follow, like, and share to help more people find this community, and remember, they're not alone. And if you haven't yet, join our Facebook group. We'd love to have you there. The more we grow, the more lives we can impact.
What's your name and share your story?